Well, good morning, my friends. What is up? It is your friend and pal Seth. My pronouns are he and they. I want to welcome you into your morning inspiration, your morning inspiration video for the day, y'all. At the time of this recording, it is Friday. I'm sorry. It is Friday, y'all, okay? And I like to call Fridays fantastic Fridays, feel good Fridays, fabulous, fantastic, all of those amazing, all of those like amazing positive F word adjectives. Yes. So I will ask you, how are you going to make this day fabulous, fantastic, and amazing? Okay. So for the purposes of this morning inspiration video for today, I wanted to kind of talk about something that had been kind of on my mind and everything. So yesterday I did a Facebook post about how I was celebrating yesterday being a peer recovery specialist and everything, and kind of my emotions around that and everything. And the reason I had done that actually was because yesterday there was a kind of luncheon kind of event, global, I think it's like global peer day or peer luncheon and everything, kind of celebrating a lot of the peer recovery specialists and everything inside of this area that I'm living and everything, and inside of like different organizations and everything. And so then it was fantastic, actually. There was lunch. They had, lunch was catered buffet style. Okay. They had dessert as well. We got to just talk and network, with other peer recovery specialists and just celebrate, who we are as peer recovery specialists and kind of what we do inside of the community and everything. And it was just such a wonderful experience and wonderful place to be in. And interestingly enough, I had actually gone to my first global peer luncheon and everything last year. And it was around this time, I think it was actually around nearing the end of October last year, because a few people were actually, I remember, dressed in Halloween costumes. And everything. So, I kind of fell, around the time of Halloween last year. And one of the things I'd been thinking about and everything, especially last year, is I went into and I went to the luncheon and everything last year, but I went there with a lot of trepidation and hesitancy and fear and a lot of questions, because there was just a lot going on in my life at that time, and I felt like I couldn't really get a toehold and everything. I felt like I didn't really deserve to be there celebrating myself as a peer recovery specialist and everything, because there was just so much going on in my life that was negative. I was just letting a lot of it just really get on top of me and everything. And so I went to the luncheon, yes, but there's just a lot kind of going on inside of my head. And I think because of that, it made my experience there not as wonderful. Fast forward to this year and going to that exact same luncheon yesterday. And it was interesting because in some of the days prior to the luncheon yesterday, I went in with, that there, was again a little bit of, some of those questions kind of came up and everything, because I had been feeling just a little bit negative and everything. But the one thing that I did yesterday, especially going into it yesterday and also even the day before, is I started using a lot of the skills and everything that I've been taught. And one of them that I did was this concept of catch, check, change and everything. And that's a technique that I really, really love. And one of my mentors, Angus, had actually told me about and taught me about that kind of as something. And interestingly enough, I had been using it before in past years. I just didn't know what the heck it was called. And Angus had taught me that's called catch, check, change. About kind of, catching, your thoughts and everything, catching those thoughts you're having and everything, and checking, are they valid? Is this, a valid thought or a valid emotion and everything, for the circumstances? In other words, kind of looking at, kind of the reality of the situation. I call it the situation, okay? Checking on kind of the reality of the situation. And then change being a way to kind of, change your thoughts, or kind of change, up kind of how you're feeling and everything, to kind of fit the situation and the validity of the situation as well and everything. And I found myself kind of doing that a lot, really, like yesterday before going to the luncheon, and then also the day before. So it's interesting. Last year, I found it kind of, very difficult to be in that room because, again, I think I had approached it with this mindset of, I don't belong here. This is going to be awful, yada, yada, yada. And I found myself, even though the room was crowded, it was, everyone was having an amazing time. People were coming up to me and everything and saying hello and everything. Because, again, I mainly just worked virtually, and then I was, working, in person at the time. Yesterday, it was a completely different experience. Because I think, as I said, I had gone into it, with a lot more of an open mindset and a lot, greater of a perspective. I've been doing some of, that catch, check, change, and everything, skills and everything that I learned. But, it was truly amazing. I get there and people were asking, like, do you hug? Do you shake hands and everything? I had people hugging me. I had people, talking to me, people asking questions about what I do and everything for the community of practice that I belong to, and, having, a very nice meal, hanging out with people that, I've grown to really respect, care for, and love and everything. It was an incredible experience. And I think, as I said, because I think a lot of it definitely did have to do a lot with my mindset and everything. But also, I made the decision, I'm going to have an amazing time. I'm going to have a great time, and I'm going to celebrate a lot of the accomplishments that I've made throughout this past year. And I think because of that, it was an incredible experience, and everything. So that's one of the things I really wanted to talk about today. Just this kind of, looking at our approach on how we approach different things, whether it's looking at, if it's, going into a new experience, going into an experience that we may not like or may be comfortable with, looking at some of the thoughts that we're having, about going into that experience, the thoughts, the emotions, and everything that we're feeling, and making a decision on how things are going to go. I call Tuesdays because we have the power of choice and everything. And we get the power to choose how we will approach different things and, what kind of day that we're going to have. And again, we may not be able to control a lot of the things that may be going on around us, but we can control our reaction to it. We can control our perspective that we go into about it and everything. And I think that's something that's really, really powerful, us as humans having that ability to choose. So, just trying to think about kind of how we approach different things. I think it can have a really, really big effect on on our experiences, and how we experience different things. So that is what I wanted to talk about for this morning. I hope you got, as I said, some value out of this. I will leave you now, my friends. I will say, don't quit before the miracle happens, my babies. Find ways to keep moving forward because you are amazing. You are worth it. Let's join hands and do this together. Okay? I'll also say, stay positive, stay motivated, stay focused on your amazing, huge, big dreams and goals, my friends. All right? Thank you so much for watching your Morning Inspiration, your Morning Inspiration video for the day. And I will see you. Hey, cutie. How you doing? Happy Fantastic Friday, you little cutie. Okay. So I will see you, okay, in the Morning Inspiration video for tomorrow.